are listening to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast. The production team are Angel Moore and Georgia Sutherland. I'm Yve Robinson and welcome to the show. Welcome to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast, supporting individuals, volunteer groups, community organisations, faith-based groups, social enterprise to grow and to flourish. If you need any more information on it, you can always find it via the social media platforms. And today we have Michael Hammond, and he's come to talk to us about yoga. He's from Tall Trees, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Nice to have you here. Right, in a new year, I suppose you probably get lots of people thinking, oh, I've got to get fit and everything. So maybe this is an ideal time to tell us what you do and, tell us about yoga.
Yeah, it's been quite busy at the studio. So I've had Tall Trees Yoga Studio this is the 12th year coming up. I don't have it by myself. I have another 15 teachers and another 12 teachers that cover classes. So we run about 35 classes a week. Just recently, in the last couple of years, we've started to open up to the community more. It was hard getting a foothold in the community, so we offer some free classes, and that's mainly for people who are suffering from some kind of health condition.
Yeah. And how did you get into this first? I mean, that's always an interesting thing. How some people they've got a need for it, and some people it's just like they've seen something or some kind of epiphany. Tell me about your story.
Yeah, I think it's probably slightly different. I was a prison officer for 30 years before I opened the studio. I've always been into some kind of fitness. I played a lot of football, got into weights, got into powerlifting through the prison service, and I got into kickboxing. I moved from the northeast up to Doncaster, and I was looking for something to get to know people. I didn't know a lot of people. I joined a kickboxing club, which didn't last long because of for membership had declined and they stopped. So I was on the lookout for something to do. Had a look at the local newspaper, and this Ashtanga yoga came up, and I hadn't got a clue. Googled it, had a look, had a word with Alison, my wife, and said, "Do you fancy going along?" Decided yes. On that night, Alison, who was a nurse, had to work late, so I decided to go along myself. And I was like a fish out of water. There was all these flexible people tying themselves in knots, and I was like a big lump of wood. But when I finished the class, I was walking home, and it was just strange. I felt as if I was looking down on myself walking home. I didn't know what temperature it was. It just felt weird, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to explore this more, and I want more. Yeah, and that's how I started in yoga.
Wow. And I mean, that sounds wonderful because, when you were there, you didn't feel quite like you fitted. But as you sort of, the process went through your body, you felt it.
Yeah, and it's something I hold now, because one of the main reasons people say they don't want to do yoga is they say, I'm not flexible enough. And I say, you're not flexible enough, you should have seen me. So I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And I think I can tell that story that it's not all about that. It's it's open to everybody.
I think when you've done something like kickboxing or weights, it does make your muscles in a different way. It doesn't lengthen them in that way or make you feel lean. So I suppose yoga is actually the sort of obverse of that, and probably is very helpful to relaxation.
It is. The finding fascinating things about yoga just in the last 10 years, really. So prior to 10 years ago, if they did an autopsy on the body, they would take the fascia out. So fascia was like an internal bandage. It really got in the way, so they would strip all the fascia out and put it in a bin. And then about 10 years ago, there was a surgeon working on somebody's hand, and he got a scope into the person's hand, and they seen live fascia for the first time. And they were gobsmacked, it's just awe-inspiring. So it has its own little nervous system within the fascia that they didn't realise. And it transfers liquid throughout the body. So they're saying now that this fascia is linked to every disease known to man. It's incredible. So when I started doing yoga, or if you're doing weights, you're working something in isolation, where your fascia has no end and no beginning. You need to work the whole body holistically, and that's what yoga does really.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
helps to keep the body into balance.
Yeah. So this fascia, it's called, is like a separate nervous system
Yes.
that previously has been discounted.
Yeah, they thought it was a connective tissue. What they say now, it should be classed as an organ on its own because it does so much. It also it links with your vagal nerve, which is one of your 12 cranial nerves, the longest one. So they sort of work in tandem. And that's the link between the body, the healthy body, and the healthy mind.
Yeah. Well, we seem to have gone really deep into this, but let's just back up a little bit and talk about, right, if I came to you today for a class, firstly, where would I come?
Yeah, so we're based in Woodfield Park, which, if you don't know where that is, if you know Doncaster, it's in Bolby, and it used to be where St Catherine's House is. It's still there, the house. So it was part of Tickhill Road Hospital, and they split it into half. Half of it's now businesses, and half of it's still the hospital. So we're linked in there. It's if you haven't been, it's a beautiful park. It's got lovely gardens. It's got a walled garden. It's got a garden centre. You know, so it's in a really peaceful, serene situation. You know, so it's a win-win really. It's a lovely start.
Yeah.
And you'll find Tall Trees Yoga Studio in there.
Yeah. And so, right, so I've got there today, I've come to Bolby, and I've been there, and it is lovely. It's a beautiful, serene setting, and they do have lots of different activities there as well. So if I came, what would I need to bring? Just myself, or
just yourself. Yeah. Something comfortable to wear. We can supply you with mats, blocks, straps. Everything else is there, but we do ask you to bring a smile on your face, and that's all.
Yeah. And so, right, how long is a session usually?
It depends. We have some 45-minute sessions. We have some hour classes, and we have some hour and a half classes. Always say, people say, have you got any beginners classes? And really, we're all beginners.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to know what you want out of your yoga. So I'll ask that question. We have more dynamic classes if you want to be more for the body. If you want something for the mind, we have classes like Yin class, restorative yoga, which are more for calming the mind.
Yeah, yeah. And do you yourself? Do you practice every day?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. So every morning, I put my mat out. I don't have anything set in my mind. I just put my mat out, and I just take us where it takes us.
Yeah, yeah. So you do all the different postures and
sometimes not. It'll depend. You know, I think it's more important to do what you need, and not what you think you can.
Yeah.
So I'll just sit
so
for a
just
moment.
Allow it to flow.
I'll have a little bit of a meditation, see how I actually feel that day, and then I just let the body take us where it wants to take us. Really.
Right. But going back now to how you started, when you started up, was there any difficulty with that you encountered? How do you go from being an idea that you did to then being Tall Trees? Take us through that.
I'm going to start. You're going to think I'm some kind of old hippie here.
No, come on. Listen, the thing is, I think that a lot of us are more spiritual than anything. It's a big movement now to be spiritual, and I think that yoga is that sort of, it's a way of getting into that spirituality. Well, that's what I feel anyway. So it doesn't matter if you're an old hippie.
I started seeing signposts everywhere.
Yeah.
And I believe these signposts are everywhere in life, and I just believe that we are so busy, so on the treadmill, that we don't lift the head up, we don't take that minute to have a look at these signposts, and we're there. Yeah. And then the second one is actually trusting them and going with them and not resisting
There's
them.
a lot to being mindful, because the thing about that is, you're saying about signposts, it's the same way as people don't see red flags, because unless you really become aware of yourself, then you don't see the signposts or the red flags sometimes. So this is a way of probably calming yourself down and allowing that to happen.
It is.
Yeah. So what kind of signs did you see then? Can you remember?
There was things. So and lots of things sort of coincidence came up. So I was still in the prison service. I'd started doing yoga. I was still doing the other stuff, the weights and the running. I had a car accident. Somebody drove in the back of me. Ended up with a back injury that would come back later to haunt us, when we talk about that later. So it meant every time I was trying to do the weights or running, I was getting real pain in the back. So I thought my body's telling us something. So I just did every yoga. I used to do it 3 times a day. I'd wake up, do yoga, I did some at work at my lunch break, I'd do some in the evening, and I just got fully into yoga. And then part of my duties as in the prison service, I used to teach staff. One was like a self-defense, like use of force. But so I had a level 4 teaching qualification, and I enjoyed teaching. And I thought, when I'm going to, when I retire, I'm going to take up, I'm going to become a yoga teacher. I was enjoying the yoga. And a guy at work, Steve Williams, gave us a book. He said, read that book. And it was a book called A Hunt in the Shadows by Jeff Thompson. And it sort of said, what you're waiting for. So I decided, finished the book, I picked the phone up, and I booked a teacher training course. And then I went to, it was weekends, so I went to see the governor at the time. I was at Wakefield Prison, and I said I might need some weekends off. And told her why, and she asked us a little bit more about yoga. So I told her, and she called us up again later, and she said, if we allow you to do the course, what would the Wakefield Prison get out of it? So I'd done a little bit of business plan, and she paid £2,000 towards me teacher training course.
So she believed in it too.
Give us the weekends off, and that's what got me started. And I think just all these were little signposts saying this is the time. And then it was a 2-year course. When I was coming to the end of the 2-year course, they were asking for people to take early retirement in the prison service. The Governor Sue had moved on sideways, and I thought, this is a signpost, it's telling me where to go. So I put in for it, got accepted, and and then I was hiring halls. We did a yogathon, a charity yogathon, and there was all these yoga teachers there. I didn't believe there was that many in Doncaster, so we looked at getting the studio together as a collaboration. That didn't work, so I did it myself and opened the studio up.
Yeah. And how long has the studio been open?
This is my 12th year.
Wow.
It's grown. I've got 15 teachers here now, apart from myself. And then, like I say, we do teacher training every year. So we're on the 4th year of that, and the guys that come off there, if they qualify, they'll cover classes at the studio.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are
Like you say about training, is there grants to help people do that? You know, I wonder if the community wealth builders ever sort of get involved and help you out.
I haven't known anybody apply for a grant. Again, that's something I think it would be beneficial. It's a good qualification to have, you know. We even thought about going back to my backgrounds of people who were getting close to being released from prison. It would be a nice course for them too. It would give them something to, you know, at least a string to the bow when they were released.
Are you still connected at all to the prison service in any way?
I have some of the people I used to work with have she was quite high up in the prison service. I'm not take her to say her name. She was my governor. She was the best governor I've ever had, and we're still in touch. So I have links about, it'll be 8 or 9 years ago now, somebody from Hatfield Prison, the PI there, Jason, contacted me, and they had a guy who was coming to an end of a sentence. He'd got into yoga. He took an online yoga teacher training course, but they didn't have any yoga teacher there. But he could get day release, so I used to come to the studio, did a lot of work with him, got a massive thank from the governor at the time, and helped
somebody
Paul
along. That is wonderful.
And he's out now.
Well done, you.
He stays in touch. You know, and
that's really nice.
He's having a good life.
Going back to the grants thing, I'm just going to quickly interject, because I know there's a small grant system that is to do with the community wealth builders. And if you want to know about it, the best thing to do is probably go on the Facebook page. I just know that this small grant, which is from £2,000 to £10,000, and like I say, I have very little information other than if you want to know about it, go onto the Facebook page, because I know that it ends, the availability ends at the end of this month, so I don't know whether it would help at all, but you never know. If you don't ask, you never know if the answer is yes or no, do you really?
That's right.
Yeah. So getting back to you, now, you personally, when it came to working out how to form a business, who did you go to help you?
Doncaster Council were massively helped. In fact, we were sort of told we had to go on this course, and it was really, really, yeah. I couldn't have done it without that, to be honest. It was really helpful. Helped me write the business plan as well, which, like I say, a big part of the business plan was engaging with the community. I found that really, really difficult at first, but now it seems the last few years as if it's starting to come together.
Yeah,
We're doing a lot of work with different communities, and that's something that certainly I always wanted to do, So, yeah, I mean, I know councils get a bad image sometimes, but they're there to help. Some fantastic people.
The thing is, you have to know where to access it. That, like I say, the Community Wealth Builders, which is, backed by Doncaster Council, it's good that they're there, but you have to know that they're there to use them, and it's good that you've been able to use Doncaster Council to help you along. And I think that's the thing. We've all very easily will say, oh, Doncaster Council, this, that, and the other. I mean, I used to work for them, so I probably have a different view. I've always found them very helpful in so many ways. It's a bit like the NHS. Some people say, oh, this, that, and the other. I have found nothing but excellence,
Hard, it's big, I mean, people struggle running their own household. Imagine trying to run a city like Doncaster, I think we sometimes lose that sometimes.
Yes, we do. And I think also a lot of us hark back to the old days, and it's like, oh, we used to have a thriving market. Yeah. Yes, we did. But you know what? We all stopped going to the market.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't thriving, and those people had to go and find something else to do. And we forget that, don't we? We forget that if we don't support something, which is why it's good that you're part of the community to try and support, because there you are supporting somebody that needed help, and I suppose even now when people come along, there's all sorts of different things behind their stories.
Yeah, I run a class on a Thursday evening. So 2 years ago, during the teacher training, we had a student called Isabel, and she was really nervous, and to a point where I had a little quiet word with her and asked about any worries and anxieties. And obviously English wasn't her first language, so she worried about that. But it was actually just, she was worried about coming in front of people and into the community. When it all came through, and I talked to Isabel about it, and I said, is there many like that? Is that she says, and she said, Michael, Polish community, they work all day, they go home, they never see anybody. So when Isabel qualified, we did a Thursday evening, we do a yoga. Anybody can come, but it's taught in Polish for the Polish community, and that was just one, and I'd like to do more of that if we had the space and the time.
It can be very difficult to get people engaged. Like I say, I've had a lot to do with the Little Theatre, and I've had a lot to do with it for the last 7 years. And I still find people saying that they didn't know it was there, and it's the gem in the heart of the city, but nobody seems to know it's there. And it's like, also, to be honest, the diverse population of Doncaster definitely doesn't know it's there, and you have to keep trying to network to bring people in, don't you?
And it's double-edged, because they're in isolation, you don't know they're there.
Yes.
Until somebody, like Isa comes around and mentions it, and you think, God.
Well, you noticing it is the big thing, really. Noticing that she was struggling a bit, and that's what community is, isn't it? Noticing that that you can help somebody else along the way. So it's a very holistic approach that you have.
It should be. It's a yoga studio. Hopefully it is. Yeah. I've lost everything if I haven't got that.
Yes. Yeah. But it does seem like you have really made a community, and you're growing that community.
It always amazes me. I've had the studio coming up 12 years. One of the things that always amazes me, I open my front door and lovely people walk in. And when I think back to the job I had, that wasn't always the case. When you went to work, you didn't always meet nice people. The teachers I've got are phenomenal. They support the studio. They're there, they help each other out, they cover classes with each other. They're just, yeah, and I don't know if it's by good luck or good management, but it's got to a point where it virtually runs itself, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I'm lucky in that.
Yeah. And now, for you personally, what's the next stage that you want this to be?
I don't have a next stage. I mean, we run retreats, and that's full. We're doing that in the Lake District. We've got the teacher training going.
Oh, just hold on. I've just got to back up a bit.
Yeah.
Retreats.
Yeah.
Where? When? How long?
We're doing just a weekend in the Lake District.
And do you have to have been part of you for a long time, or can you sign up?
No, sign us.
Yeah.
Two spaces. It's on the website. There's 2 spaces up for next year.
All right.
So we do 6 classes. We're right on Rydal Water. It's across the road. So we do a guided walk around to Rydal Caves. We take people on a guided walk. Again, that was something. I become a rambler through the council. Me and Karen, one of the teachers, we take them in for a wild swim. All the food's included, you know, all the coffee, tea.
That sounds
coffee,
lovely. That sounds really
nice...
right up my street. I used to do, yoga with my auntie. She's quite well known in Doncaster, Sally Mandan, and she did yoga for, up until she was 90 something. Well, she died when she was 94. So, but as a result of her being, I've known her since I was really tiny, and she was always talking about yoga not being an exercise thing. It's a complete way of life. And is that what you've come to understand?
Yeah, it is. It has. I'd say the people that come and obviously worry about yoga and they want to progress, and they're saying always when they're new, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I just said, look, just come, just put your mat down and just let the magic happen.
Yeah. Just
let it happen, and it'll drip feed into you, and you'll find out that you've become a little bit more flexible, a little bit more stronger, but you'll also become a little bit more calmer. But it's not going to happen overnight, and try not to press yourself or push yourself, because you're just putting yourself under unnecessary stress and strain. Just come along, put your mat down, do what you want in the class, and then just let everything else happen.
I'm just going to reiterate. This is Tall Trees we're talking about. I'm talking to Michael Hammond. And the thing about when I'm talking to you is it's so easy to talk to you. You do give off an aura of just calm, Have you always been like that?
No. I've had to change. Yeah. So, I don't know if you haven't done yoga, this is going to sound strange, but in yoga, we say that there's 5 bodies. We haven't just got the physical body. Physical body. There's an energy body. There's an emotional body. There's a thought body, and then there's the true self right inside. So there's a meditation I used to do about going through the koshas just every day to see what was there. And every time I got to my true self, there was this little angry person in there.
Yeah.
And through meditation, through yoga, that's changed now. So yeah, when I do it now, there is a little calm person sat there.
Oh.
But yeah, so I know it does work. It can work, and we can all change.
Yeah. And like you say, it's not an instant process. No. It's a gradual process.
It's a life change. You know, if you come to yoga and you want to do it truthfully and 100%, you've got to accept it as a life change.
Yeah. And I often wonder if you feel calm all the time, does that make it easier to deal with people if you never get angry?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. And not just people. I have 4 Jack Russell Terriers. Yeah, and I'm calm when I take them, because they can be a little handful. But
4 of them, my goodness, yes, that would be a
family. They're family. So we have a choice in life, and there's really 2 emotions. There's anger or resentment, or there's happiness, and we have a choice in life. We can be angry, or we can be happy.
Yeah. And when you go along that path, do you find that everything slots better into place?
Yeah, I mean, you're just trying to find that medium. You're not trying to get too elated when things are good, and you're not trying to get too down when things are bad. And you will, we all get a little bit down sometimes. It's about not staying down. It's about getting back to that medium. Yeah. And good things will happen in life, and it's okay to enjoy them. But then, don't expect to stay up there. You're going you're going to come back to that medium, and it's accepting that middle ground where it's contentment more than anything.
I wonder, does it help with people with depression?
Yes, yeah. I mean, contentment, if you can hit that midline and just being content with your life. I think that's harder these days because of social media and things get pushed. People live false lives online, and then you think because you're not them, you're failing in life. And it is hard. It's hard for young people growing up, I think. But it's just, again, if you can take that time to sit on your mat on a cushion for 3 minutes a day and just connect with your breath and just think of all the good things you've got in your life, you know, the things you're thankful for, and reach that contentment line again.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, the speed of life, because one of the things I found was when I was growing up and I got home from school, if somebody wanted to get in touch with me, we had a telephone, but not everybody had telephones. So it's like they may not call you, so you probably didn't see them till the next day. So nothing much happened. Whereas now, you can get home from school and, you know, your friend can have got in touch with you and got in touch with a friend and blah, 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 and things can escalate and everything is so quick, you know. And it's like I've noticed that if somebody's texting, they expect a reply straight away. Yeah. I try not to, just because I just think, look, if you rang me and I didn't have time, I wouldn't answer the phone. I don't have to, you know, but there is a certain speed of life that is, you know, there's a pressure to be part of that speed, I think.
Yeah, I don't know when it started, but people working on laptops as they're going to work. And on the way home, and it's just. Yeah.
Well, it's like I do remember when Blackberries came in, and you see all these chaps sort of this little thing, and they're tapping away, you know. And I remember a friend of mine saying, "I'm just sick of my husband's BlackBerry," you know, which I know a lot of people won't even know I'm talking about. It's the sort of first phone that you could do so much work and you could still get your emails and all that thing. And then once we'd all got smartphones, you're just so available, you know. And I actually make sure that I'm available, but I'm not always available. You know, it's like because if I don't, I can spend my time scrolling and, you know, and I can get lost on YouTube and everything. And they're all good props. They're all good things that help. But like a lot of things, moderation might be the best thing, you know. Yeah.
I do think that the younger ones are starting to latch onto that.
Yeah.
And I think the young ones are more aware of the problems of the phone and more and more.
Yeah.
I do when they come in the studio, they're also ones that will put the phone in the locker and lock it up.
Yeah.
It's always people a little bit older who try and sneak them into class.
Yeah, because when you're a little bit older, you think, oh, my grandchildren might ring me, my children might ring me. And it's like, do you know what? When I went to school, and my mum she knew I was there, but I never had to get in touch with her. I didn't have to be in touch, you know. And I think it's nice to be in touch, but you don't have to always be available.
Because it was a new thing in our life where young people have grown up with it. So it's like, it's a phone. It's always been there. I don't always need it, but I think
I think I used to have this thing where I answered too quickly, and it's like sometimes the answer I gave might not have been right because I actually didn't read the thing properly, you know, and I thought they said no when they said yes, that kind of thing, you know.
Texts are bad.
Yes.
There's a mindful tip for you. When the phone rings, let it ring 3 times, then smile before you pick it up, and it'll change your conversation.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice little tip there. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So, it being January, have you got any new initiatives, you know, to help people along at Tall Trees at the moment, or is it just business as usual?
It's really business as usual. Obviously, we get an influx of new people, so it's settling them in, making sure they're happy. We've just started our new teacher training last weekend, so they've done the first weekend. That's always an exciting time, getting different energies into the studio.
If people wanted to do that, is there any sort of baseline that they have to be, you know?
No, we'd like them to do a little bit of yoga, but really it's being aware of what they're coming into. It's hard. It's a very intense course, and I think people don't realise that when they come in. So but we'll have the sit down, we'll have the conversation with you. Sometimes it's good that they haven't done too much yoga because bad habits haven't crept in.
Yes, it's a bit like driving, isn't it? You know, I drove for I drove for years, but I was in the Caribbean, and when I came back, I like to retake my test. And I was like terrified because I thought, oh dear, I've been bad habits of 17 years or whatever, And actually, to be honest, I was quite lucky because my driving instructor was a real Dire Straits fan. So I told him that I'd recorded that. So even though I think I made mistakes, he was like, well, you've been driving a long time, I think you'll be okay. I mean, I don't mean he really said that, but he kind of like after the fact said, well, you more or less passed when he said you met Mount Knopfler.
But music and yoga, so the original, when you go back years and years, and if you talk about the first time yoga was documented, the postures, there was no such thing as postures.
No.
So all the postures really are 19th century postures. So when they taught about yoga, the first time it was written down by a guy called Patanjali, in some what we call sutras, which are just like little threads of information. And the second one said yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. So he says yoga is anything that stops the mind from wandering.
Right.
So if you're playing a musical instrument, you're fully engaged in that, So that's yoga as far as they were concerned. The problem is we haven't got something there all the time. You kind of carry a guitar or a keyboard with you. So that's when they started bringing breath in, getting interested in the breath, because it's with you constantly and you can concentrate on your breath. So that was the start.
It's a bit like when you're dealing
meditation.
with children that have behavioural problems. One of the things you do is let's get your breath back. Let's get you calm. Let's get and it's bringing them back to themselves, isn't it?
It is. All of our yoga tortures it's based around that. It's about stopping the mind from wandering, fluctuating for that hour, for that time you're there. Then hopefully you can take that more into your everyday life, and that'll get you to that little contentment line.
Right. Well, I think that I've really sort of covered everything. It's been really nice to speak to you, and I hope you have a really good new year, and that lots of people come to Tall Trees, because even just sitting next to you, I can feel that this kind of release, as if you do emanate a certain well-being. It's really nice, Well, so thank you very much for talking to us.
You don't have to come to Tall Trees. There's lots and lots of other good yoga teachers around, but just have a little look at the type of yoga that you're going into. Make sure it's what you want out of your yoga, and when you find it, it'll be the best thing you've ever done.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast. Today's guest details can be found in the bio.